Hi, my name is Brian and I'm the High Pop Professor. And today I wanted to talk about a new app that I just been using the last few months with great success. So when it comes to like looking at your cards, analyzing your cards, and determining centering, particularly if the centering is kind of right on that cusp, 60-40 or 55-45, and you're really trying to get an accurate determination, it can be kind of tough to do. And so, there exist these tools out there. And so here's like a centering tool, right? Where you line up the numbers and by the evens and the odds, and you look at all these ratios over here, and you have to line it up and figure out what it is. And you got to read all these paragraphs and figure out how to navigate around that. And I mean, I don't know how the heck to use this thing. It's very complicated. And to the point where even I'm not 100% sure I'm using it correctly. And I was not satisfied with this as a solution. However, there is a card centering app that is actually quite good, and that's what this video is going to be about. I'm going to go ahead and walk through. It's a free app. There are in-app purchases, which will take away some of the occasional ads that will pop up there. And I believe another feature, if you purchase it, it's not very expensive, but if you do go ahead and buy it, they'll tell you, some of the big grading companies at the top, what the maximum grade would be for that card based on the centering conditions. So what I would like to do is I'd like to go through and we'll play a little game. We'll play a little test. I pulled aside a few cards, 8 of my cards, that definitely have some, they have some centering issues. They're not all perfectly dead centered. But the question is, can you guess the centering? Can we name it what it is? And so that's what I would like for us to be able to do. So we're going to turn the camera around, take a look at a few cards, and we're going to give yourself a little test, see how you do on determining centering, because often determining that centering might be the key consideration of whether or not you're choosing to send a card to get graded or something. After all, if it doesn't hit within the 60-40 centering guideline, it's out of the PSA 9 threshold. As long as they adhere to their own standards, that's a different issue. So yeah, it can kind of be a big determiner of whether or not to send something. So let's turn the camera around and we'll look at a few off-centered cards. All right, so as I was saying about this this card centering app, it's free to download. It's really easy to use. You do have to get a good picture to sort of load into it first, though. So you should have it as well, I guess centered as you can in the frame. Take a good picture of it. If you might need to adjust it to make sure it's not tilted or angled in any other way, that's a good idea. And then what you can do is within the app, you can open up the image and then you can just zoom way in and drag the borders to the inner edge and outer edge of all 4 sides of the card. And at the very top, it'll tell you exactly what the percentages are for left to right centering, top to bottom centering, and it's just that simple. So let's go ahead and take a look at a few of these. I am super pumped. The first one we're going to show today, this is just a background card for reference. We'll look at one of those later. In fact, we'll look at a couple examples that are like this, 95 Finest Refractor. But I'm super pumped with a brand new pickup I just got the other day. This is one of my goal cards for this year, and it showed up for the right price, and I'm very, very happy with it. And so this is a 2003 Topps Chrome Black Refractor. Beautiful card. Just got this in recently. I just can't, I'm just so happy to have this one, to check this one off the list. This is from 03. It's pretty limited. It's not quite as limited as the 02. The 03, this one's numbered out of 199, as we'll see on the back. Really happy about that. And because it's not quite as limited, it's not quite as pricey as the 02s that are numbered out of 50. Those can get kind of price-wise. But anyway, but you'll notice, this card is not perfectly centered. And that's okay. It's not it's fine by me. It's still within my tolerance. I know it wouldn't be okay for Double D Dylan. In fact, this video is sort of for him. It's all about centering. So I actually turned down. There was one of these that came up earlier this year. I'll put a picture up here to the left. And I turned it down because the centering, the vertical centering, was way off. And it was, to me, overpriced. And so I passed on it. Decided not to go for it. And again, I wasn't entirely sure what the centering was on that. And so I went ahead and took the picture, and I went to the app, and turns out that the top bottom centering for that one now is tough to see with this picture. The bottom edge in the picture kind of has a little bit of glare right there along the bottom edge of that picture over there. So it's tough to tell exactly where the bottom edge is. So you gotta make sure when you take a good picture, you can actually see a defined edge. Obviously if you have cards that don't have good borders, yeah, this is not gonna be that helpful of an app for you. So depending on where it was either I got a 6337 top bottom centering or 60.6 39.4. Both of which do not quite fall in that 60-40 centering range. Now this one that I did get here, it is a little bit off left-right centering. You can kind of see that. But again, I went ahead and put this into that centering app as well. And it turns out this came back a 44.4 slash 55.6 left-right centering. So yeah, not 50-50, but that's okay. I don't need it to be. It's a beautiful card. Really pumped to be able to add that to my collection. All right, now the reason I had this 95 in the background, this is one I was super happy with. I graded this one myself. I bought it already peeled, sent it in, and it came back a PSA assigned 9. Really happy with that, because most of them, the fact is, most of the ones you will see look kind of like this. And you can kind of see how thin that right edge is. It's a horizontal card, and the way that these cards were printed, the way that they were manufactured, cut, whatever it was, that right edge is super skinny on like 90% of them. Maybe 95%, maybe 85%. The overwhelming majority look like that. And of course, this kind of centering, well, what would you predict that centering looks like? I look at this thing, I'm thinking, what's that, 80-20? And so it's time to find out. What's your prediction? What is that? Is that 25-75? Is it 15-85? What is it? What is it? So it turns out I put it into my app. And so what did it come up with? Turns out the ordinary, typical example of a 95 finest refractor for Greg Maddux, your left-right centering is 73-27. Ouch. So yeah, not that great. Now there was another one that came up for sale, and I was curious about it because this was one of those rare 10% that actually had reasonable left-right centering. And so it caught my eye because you don't see those very often. And when you do, they go for a premium. They will sell for 2-3 times what the normal card off-centered variety would sell for. But even still, I was curious because even though left-right seemed pretty good, top-bottom was still a little, I don't know about that. So how is that top-bottom centering? What would you predict on that? And so take a moment, see what you got. I was curious enough to take the picture of this one and throw it in, and this app came back with this as a 60.5 slash 39.5 top-bottom centering. So even that. Now 60-40 is a big deal because that's kind of the threshold for a PSA 9. At least on the front of the card. The back is quite a bit more lenient. But still, if someone's buying this hoping they can come back and grade that a PSA 9, they've got some bad news. That's just not going to work. Okay, let's go ahead and move along to another card. And this is a super great card. Really excited about this one too. This was a big pickup of mine last year. I did share it on my pickup video from last year, but this is, well, it should look familiar. In fact, it's the same card design as the 03 Topps Chrome Black Refractor, except this one is the Xrator. This is the uncirculated blue Xrator, and this one is still in its Topps sealed one touch, and this one is really exclusive, being numbered to 50. So I've never opened this card. Clearly, it's still in its uncirculated case. Not a crazy well-centered card. At least the top bottom is a little bit, but that's okay. We take those. So how are we doing on this top bottom? Let's go ahead and compare. Here's my image scan. And so what does that look like to you? would that fall within a 60-40 tolerance or 55-45 tolerance? And turns out this one came back a 58.4/41.6. And so, yeah, well within the tolerance for a 9. That's just about perfect for me. I don't need it to be, I don't see myself cracking this out and grading it anytime soon. I think it's fine just as it is. Love this card. And so we are good to go there. Now, the next two that I would like to take a look at here are 2 cards I did send in to grade, but I did it before I knew about this app. And so this is the kind of thing I would have wanted to know about before I sent it in. So here's a beautiful 96 finest gold refractor, peeled, of course, with no hulking exhibited at all. It is fabulous, absolutely wonderful. Look at that beautiful shine. But, if you look at that centering, the vertical centering never bothers me as much as the horizontal centering. I don't notice it as much. But this one is quite a bit thinner on the top than on the bottom. And so if it's worse than 60-40, PSA is not really supposed to give that a 9. So what is that centering? Let's put a picture up here. What is that actually? Is it within the 60-40 tolerance? That's the question. And so I went ahead, put it in the app, and the app says, 39.9/60.1. Ouch. Okay, so so in this one, of course, it did come back a PSA assigned 8. Of course, you wouldn't know that. I cover up all the grades. But yeah, and of course that assumes that PSA actually follows their standard. You see, that's a that's a different story entirely. But yeah, something like that maybe could have saved me from a fate like that and sending it in thinking I had a shot at a 9. Again, that's so close though. And of course they put that fine print on there that tells them like, hey, we can, it's still not a hard and fast rule, at the grader's discretion, they can do whatever they want really. So it's more of a guideline, All right, and moving along, how about another beautiful horizontal beauty? Look at this, 96 Topps Chrome Refractor. First ever year of Topps Chrome. But looking at this card, this is one of those that also is really tough to find that don't exhibit the hulking, and this one does not. There is 0 hulking on this card, particularly good. And, but again, centering tends to be tough on this one. And if we want to be technical about it, I believe that this card has a very slight diamond cut to it. Very slight. I think Dylan would probably be able to detect that. But anyway, I was curious. And again, sent this in. This came back the other, one of my first couple of grading orders I did send in. And it came back a PSA. Well, I won't even tell you, actually. Let's go ahead and see. What do you think this would grade as far as centering, rather? What would the centering be here? So again, this, and I think the, well, again, I looking at this, top bottom centering, what do you think? And so we put the picture up, and what do you think? Turns out, according to this app here, this 96 Topps Chrome Refractor top bottom centering is 41.3/58.7. So well within the tolerance. Well, not well within the tolerance, but still within the tolerance for a 9. This, however, did come back a PSA assigned 8. Because again, remember, just because the centering is good doesn't mean that it doesn't say anything about surface scratches or corners or edge wear or anything like that. Or perhaps a slight diamond cut. Okay. All right, let's try 2 more last examples here. And we'll take a look. Here's one, really fun one. Here is a 2001 Topps Chrome Rookie Retrofractor. And so look at this beautiful card. I have considered sending this card in for grading a couple times, and every time I look at it, I'm like, you know what? That's a beautiful card. That's and that's actually centered pretty darn well. I mean, look at that. That's a beauty. Scratch-free surface. Man, that could be a high grade. So what has stopped me? Well, take a look at the back. Left-right seems all right, but Boy, that's a thin bottom or a thick top. Ugh. How bad is that? Well, this is what stopped me from sending it. Now, it's interesting. PSA is, their grading standard, they're much more lenient on the back of the cards. In fact, on the PSA 10 standard, they tell you that the cards can be 75-25 on the back and still be a PSA 10. And as long as it's better than 90-10, I believe it can be a 9 or an 8. So, well, how bad is that? How thin is this thing? Well, let's put it to the app and find out. So what do you think? What is this? Is this 80-20? Is this 70-30? Is it 15-85? What is this? What is this? So, turns out this back centering, top bottom, is 74.6/25.4. So believe it or not, this centering still keeps it within the technical tolerance for a PSA 10. So how about that? So, surprised? I know I was. Again, this is assuming that they actually stick by their standards and apply them. All right, and last one for today. Well, there's actually two here, but that's okay because this one's just kind of funny. So, love my 95 Bowman's Best Refractor. Absolutely love them. This one is a bit off-centered, as you can see. But I have two variants. I've got the one that says Refractor on the back and one that doesn't. And I thought, just for fun, let's go ahead and take the other one that looks even worse. This is, ooh, look at that centering. You can't even see the right border. Oh boy, that's, ooh. So looking at that left-right centering, beautiful shiny card. It's gorgeous. It does have a little touch of hulking on the face. You can kind of see. If you compare this to the other one that we have here, yeah, he's got a little green there around that face, but that's okay. This card's already horribly off-centered anyway. So how bad is it? What is this? 90-10? 95-5? And it's kind of interesting. Depending on where you choose to draw the border, so to speak, however far you choose to drag, sometimes it's not clear exactly where the border begins or ends. So even that, depending on the card, could be subjective. For example, where does the top border stop? Does it stop at the letters of his name? Tough to say. All right, well, it turns out that this one, this 95 Bowman's Best Refractor, left-right centering, turns out is 84.1/15.9. This is a 1585. And that's assuming that I actually, I may have actually been a little generous with that right edge. Because this is, woo! I think regardless, this would probably get that MC miscut designation if it were actually sent in. But I wouldn't send this in. Alrighty. So again, depending on whether it's just for your eye appeal, depending on if you're looking to possibly submit cards for grading, or if you're just kind of fed up with the idea of trying to use one of those centering tools that have this really complicated chart and you're trying to figure out how do you use this thing and how do you set these ratios and use one of these centering tools. I don't know. I'm trying to line this up and figure out where the odd numbers and even numbers go and what that means. And I don't know. I just think the app is super easy to use. It's free. Yeah, sometimes you got to watch a short little, 10-second ad, but it's a great tool for the hobby. And I just wanted to sort of let people know about that through this little fun game experiment exercise we had today. So appreciate that. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you on the next one.